Hey everyone, it is Jamie with Madlet Musings, and today I have back with us a recurring guest who is always fun to have on the show. I have with us Patricia Bradley. Welcome back.
Thank you. I love being on your podcast. This
It
is
is,
we always have fun together.
we do. And today we are talking about a book that you have coming out in May called Counterattack, which is the first book of a new series.
Right.
So that's exciting.
Yes, it
Excited
is.
about that.
I moved out of Mississippi and into the Cumberland Plateau, just up above Chattanooga. I didn't
Okay.
want Chattanooga. This book deals somewhat with Chattanooga, which I
Mhm.
love it. My sister lives in Udoa, which is
Okay.
just outside of Chattanooga, going toward Cleveland,
Sure.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to set a book there, and my publisher said, "Go for it," and I did. So
Awesome.
I'm creating, and this one is totally fictional. I do not
Okay.
have to worry about whether a restaurant is on a certain street that they serve.
Yeah, I don't know if readers realize when you pick an actual location to set a book, how much detailed research has to be done just to keep it accurate to the actual location.
I went well, not the Natchez Trace books. I
Hmm.
went to Natchez 4 times until COVID hit, and I couldn't go anymore.
Sure.
And so, and it was just to research, take pictures of houses and streets and restaurants, and I love that town too. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that kind of research is fun too, but then there's an element of added pressure that you
I
like a
never had,
local's gonna call you up and be like, "Hey, you got that wrong."
yeah, they'll send you an email.
Oh, I know, I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yep.
and I made some good friends. One of the real estate agent down there helped me a whole lot,
Okay.
sending because I would tell her what kind of house I wanted. And so
Hmm.
she would send me to where I think this might be what, and she was
Oh,
really
cool.
excited about it. So
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. All right, so let me read the short synopsis about this book so that readers can hear a little bit about what it's about and we can talk about it some more. But this one is called Counterattack, and it starts out as Alexis Stone has no sooner been sworn in as the chief deputy for Russell County, Tennessee, when a serial killer dubbed the Queen's Gambit Killer. I like that. That's my own little insertion there. Strikes again, this time in her hometown. Pearl Springs is just supposed to be a temporary stop along the way to Alex's real dream, becoming the first female police chief of Chattanooga. Yes, ma'am. But the killer's calling card, a white pawn, and a note with a chess move printed on it, cannot be ignored. Pearl Springs Chief of Police Nathan Landry can't believe that his high school sweetheart Alexis, he refuses to call her Alex, is back in town, and he can't help wanting to protect the woman he never stopped loving. But as the danger mounts and the killer closes in, can Nathan come through on the promises he makes to himself to bring a killer to justice before it's too late? Dun dun dun. That sounds
um,
exciting.
it was fun writing their story. I and the chess moves I did not make up. I
Okay.
posted on I posted on Facebook. Are there any chess masters out there?
Aha. I think I vaguely
And
remember seeing that post.
and a woman,
Okay.
answered and volunteered her brother and
Aha.
gave her. She said that he'd been playing chess and he had competed in tournaments and things. So
Okay.
I sent him an email and explained everything and asked him could he help me. And boy, did he. He
Oh.
plotted out what each message should be and when they should be.
Oh my
To,
goodness.
so he was so much help. And I've got an acknowledgement to him in the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So thanking him because he saved my bacon because otherwise I would have had to change a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, chess is not at first glance, it seems like it should be simple. Like each player does this one specific move, and it should be. But then when you really get into the science and logic behind it, it becomes this convoluted mathematical equation, and you're like, what?
It really is. And that's, as I researched it, that's what I learned, is the chess moves are mathematical equations.
Mm-hmm. Which is
So,
why I can't play it that way.
because numbers and I do not agree.
No,
Did you ever read that little paragraph that asks, "Are you a numbers person or a words person?"
no.
And you're supposed to read it and tell how many times you see the word OF.
Okay.
And there's like 11 times in the paragraph. I
Mm-hmm.
think I got 6, because
Really?
my brain sees it as OV,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but a math person will find every one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I found that people, not to get off the subject, but I think people who are mathematical tend to read slower, and not in a bad way, but in a way where they're looking, I think they're looking at more, maybe like they're actually looking at what's there. Where I think with creatives, it's like we kind of assume what the next word's going to be and we just keep going without double checking.
I agree.
Or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, well, it'd be 2 of us and probably a whole bunch more.
Probably. Okay, so what made you go the route of chess then? If chess is that difficult and you're not mathematical, what made you choose chess?
Well, I like chess has always fascinated me.
Okay,
I, it's something, I guess, that down deep I really wish I were good at. And
gotcha.
and, and I always feel like, well, I could be if you apply the time, but who has
Yeah.
time? Yeah. So, but just the idea of it, to me, it's fascinating. The world of chess is. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the players, and in my research, I read The Queen's Gambit, which is a book as well as
As a
a
show.
series.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't have time to watch the series. I'm not a television or movie person, which really hinders me sometimes, because you get so many good ideas that it makes your
Yeah.
brain. But in which eventually one day I may be again. But anyway, the just reading the story and her reactions, and in the Queen's Gambit, and the way she thinks and everything, it just the mind of a person who's good at chess fascinates me. And
Yeah.
most of my books are somewhat of a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is this thing that a lot of them are have personality disorders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep. Yeah.
they have mind problems, and so
Mm-hmm.
I guess that I'm just fascinated by that. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then plus I got that chess master to help me, which helped a whole lot.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I think I watched a movie when I was younger. I might not have the name right, but I think it was In Search of Jimmy Fisher.
There was one.
And I think wasn't he the chess player that disappeared eventually, and they're not sure if he did it, maybe disappeared on purpose because he was that intelligent, or I don't know. Maybe I'm adding to the story.
Yeah, I remember Jimmy Fisher though.
Okay. Well, I did get the name right there. But that was one of my first exposures that chess was not just a simple
Yeah,
board game.
it's not checkers.
No, it's not checkers.
But and checkers is also can be very complicated,
It
but
can.
much easier for me to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
All the things move in the same way.
they move in the same way, and yeah, they don't all have different personalities.
Right. Yeah. Every
Oh,
chess player has a different personality.
yeah, they really do. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you have a killer whose calling card is to leave a white pawn, and then he puts a chess move on it. Now, I was a little curious, and I don't want you to spoil anything, but is the chess move intended for like the police that are chasing him, or is the chess move intended for a victim, or how does that kind of
It
fit
is
in?
he's making fun of the police.
Got
The
it.
killer is making fun of the police. All
Okay.
of them are pointing out how dumb they are, how they missed
Mm,
this, or how they missed that.
okay. Ooh, I like that. That's
It
very
doesn't,
devious of you.
yeah, it doesn't point to another killing. Usually, it just
Okay.
points to that this is the way you messed up. Ha ha ha. Oh,
Yeah, it's
and it's
like,
also delve into the dark web, which was
oh,
fascinating too.
Okay, so how do you research the deep dark web without getting put on a list somewhere?
Well, it really isn't that, it's not what everybody thinks, really. I mean,
Okay.
there are so many, I mean, you don't want to download it. It says don't download it to your computer. Not that it won't blow your computer up or anything,
Right.
but and in this, I talk about the dark web in the book and how people in Russia and a lot of the countries use it to keep the overseers
Mm-hmm.
from reading their emails.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of
Yeah.
good things, of course, a lot of bad things, but I
Yep.
mean, and I took a course. There's a course that'll teach you how to get on the dark web.
Oh my goodness. Here you have it. Right here, readers and Madlet Musings. You are the first to know that Patricia Bradley has taken a course.
Yeah, I know how to do it. I didn't do it because I really didn't have time to do it because I was afraid I'd fall down a rabbit hole and not ever come out. There's so much on there, but
I, I'm just laughing. I'm sorry. It just sounds so funny. I was not expecting that to come out.
people look at me and say, "You kill people? You
See
don't
that
seem
for some reason that doesn't shock me because Patricia Bradley surfing the dark web is a
Oh yeah."
completely different story.
When I have time one of these days, I really am going to do it
Yeah. Yeah.
just to say that I have because I did a simulated one, but it's they have detailed instructions on how to do it.
Well, if I ever need help with that, I'll give you a
Well,
call.
first of all you do is download the Tor browser, and
Okay.
Tor stands for the onion something, but it's layers.
Okay. Oh, sure. Like the skin
The
of an
onion
onion and all
browser,
that. Mhm.
onion
Okay.
browser, and that's why you can't be traced, is because there are so many layers.
Oh, got it.
By the
Okay.
time anybody could trace you, you'd be long gone and probably dead, and your grandchildren dead.
That sounds like another book. Jeez.
And actually, you can. I have heard that you can advertise for killers on there, but that really turned out to be not a hoax. What do they call it? Where it's not really true, but it takes the
Oh,
life of his.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
know
I
what you're
think it's
saying.
some kind of hoax. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hoax sounds right. But well, that's fascinating. So you've got the dark web, you've got chess playing, you've got a female um chief deputy who wants to be a police chief. So she sounds
Right.
pretty strong-willed herself.
She is. She wanted her granddad was a sheriff, and he had a heart attack,
Okay.
and begged her to come and help him. And
Hmm.
since he and his wife raised her, she couldn't say no.
Okay.
So she put her plans on hold, and he could not resign and make her sheriff because there had to be a 1-year residency.
Sure.
That's what research teaches you. Anyway, but he can't, and I actually called the sheriff in the county up above me, which is Tennessee, and he
Okay.
said, I'm telling him my problem. People are just really want to help writers. And he said, well, I tell you what, just have him make her his chief deputy. He doesn't have to have anybody's approval for that, and no
Oh,
resident. So
I like
she is
that.
the chief deputy. And so,
Okay.
and you will, I think in the third book, you'll find out if she still hasn't decided if she's going to stay
Okay.
in Pearl or go back to Chattanooga and become the first chief of police, because there have
All
never
right.
been, and there's
Yeah.
not many female sheriffs, actually. That's what her granddaddy keeps pointing out. That she
Okay.
wants to be, so
Right. Now, is that factual? Have there not been like in that area any? Okay.
anywhere. There are very few.
Really?
Memphis has one now,
Okay.
but chief of police, the
Yeah.
Memphis, they're not a lot,
Yeah, I suppose.
but I don't think there's been over 3 sheriffs. I don't believe there's been over 2 that did not inherit the job from their husbands when they died. And
Oh, okay.
they were just appointed and then maybe went on to run, but
Right.
it's not a job in Tennessee where the sheriffs are elected.
Right. Yep.
So
Yep. That's the same way here in Wisconsin. And now I'm curious to see what our history is with females in that position.
I did a lot of my research on the female
Mhm.
sheriffs with J.A. Jance.
Okay.
She has a really good and the name of the books just left me, but she has a really good series. Joanna, I want to say Barnes, but that doesn't sound right.
Okay.
Anyway,
Mhm.
uh, she has a really good series on a woman who becomes a sheriff.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'll have to look that
It's
up too.
good.
All right. So this is book one. As the books that are coming out of this, is this a trilogy? And then is this continuing with Alex's story through all three?
Alex's story will continue, but in the second book, she's a secondary character. The main
Okay.
character is Mark Lassiter, who is the canine officer, and
Okay.
his dog Jim. And the heroine is a brand new character who is Danny, and she also has a dog, a poodle, that looks like a mop. So
Love it.
yeah, so Mark, when he first sees it, kind of makes fun of it and calls it a mop,
Yeah.
which really doesn't endear him to
I was
her,
gonna
but
say that's probably where some of the tension starts.
it does. But what do you mean anyway? But and in this one, I have had to be careful because they didn't know each other. Most of my stories, the hero and heroine have known each other in the
Okay.
past.
Hmm.
They did not, and
Okay.
so but I'm having to be careful not to rush the romance to
Right.
build. Most of my books happen within 3 or 4 days, so
Hmm.
this is happening over a longer period of time
Yeah.
to give the
Yeah.
romance time to
Yeah.
develop.
That's been something I've struggled with some of my stories because I feel like they only take place over a couple of weeks. And if they've never met before, I'm kind of like, you can't. I mean, I suppose that's happened, but it's hard to have a realistic, solid romance come out of a couple weeks of knowledge.
The only thing you can do there, and like I'm doing in mine, is a promise of a happily ever after,
Right. Right.
and that's what it is.
Exactly.
And this one will be a promise of more to
Hmm.
come. You know, that
Hmm.
they finally acknowledged. Both of them are. He in the second book, he was a sniper in Afghanistan, providing overlook for his
Hmm.
soldiers,
Hmm.
and the woman he was in love with, he he messes up and she
Oh.
dies.
Oh.
So
Okay.
he's back. He's a policeman. He's a law enforcement
Hmm.
too because he wants to protect. He's a protector
Right.
and he wants to make it right. And so, but he's not. He's afraid. He doesn't want to give his heart to someone and have that happen again. That's
Yeah.
his worst nightmare.
Right. Right. Well, that makes sense. So. Well, cool. So this book is out in May and it's from Revell Publishing. And I'm viewing the cover right now at your website, ptbradley.com. Is there anything else that our readers and listeners should know about?
Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, well, I started to say this is in the book I'm working on. And
Mhm.
in the book I'm working on, I have a Jessica Fletcher
Oh,
who has a crime board, a string board,
oh,
because her granddaughter was kidnapped and her daughter and son-in-law were murdered, and she's going to solve it. Of course, it's taken 25 years and she still hasn't, but that doesn't mean because
hey, that doesn't, no, she's still gonna do it.
she's going to be an interesting character in the book.
Oh, that
And
sounds like fun.
and uh, Alex's grandparents are good.
Okay.
I like writing older characters
Older
because they can
characters,
say what they want to.
well, exactly. And they do bring so much life into a story. And honestly, I think they're underrated in fiction sometimes because there's so much that they know and can bring in so many different types of relationships throughout fiction. So,
And there's some caving because there are a lot of
mhm.
caves
Yes.
in that
Yes.
area. It's in the
Okay.
Cumberland Plateau.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
I made it up to. I put a new river there. It's a Pearl River,
Pearl River. Yep.
and the lake and Eagle Ridge. That's where the K9 officer lives, and that's also
Okay.
where some of the caves are. So
Sure, sure.
it's a
Awesome.
beautiful area out there.
All right. Well, everybody head out and get Pearl River Book 1, Counterattack, and then get ready to read Book 2 when it comes out. And I'm betting we'll have you back on the podcast when that one comes out.
Oh, I hope so, because that'll be
Yeah.
fun.
That would be fun. So, well, thanks so
Thank-
much for being with us today.
I'm always glad to be here, and that you have such a good podcast, and it was so much fun. It's always fun.
It is fun. It's fun to just talk.
Yeah.